Welcome, listeners, welcome, viewers. My name is Jeff Maxwell from Christ and Nothing Ministries. We have a very special program, a topic that's really today that's really going to give all of our listeners and viewers an evaluation on where we at and where we stand dealing with our children. Today we have two special guests. We have Chris Lincoln. He's the executive director of Rule Breakers. Tell him hi, Chris.
How y'all guys doing out there? Rule Breakers is an organization that was thought of a year ago. It's a mentor program that's geared towards low socioeconomic children. It's geared towards mentorship. We're mentoring our children to find their purpose and their identity here in the world today. One of our biggest issues with our children today is they do not know and do not understand who they are. And the point of Rule Breakers is to break society stereotypes, those type of rules, the negative rules that are placed upon our children every single day as they walk out here into these streets. Negative rules such as you shall not become a college graduate, you will not make it past the age of 18, you will be dead before your 21st birthday, things of that sort, or you will be on public assistance for the rest of your life. So the point of Rule Breakers is to break those stereotypes and those rules that are placed upon our children each day.
That's good stuff. We also have Craig Holly from Christ and Nothing Ministries. He's a part of one of the operations that we have in collaboration with Rule Breakers called Operation Takeover, where we have had success in establishing Christian clubs inside of high schools. Craig Holly, can you introduce yourself and tell them what this operation is about?
Hey, my name is Craig Holly, and yes, what we do is we go into these high school and grammar schools and establish Christian clubs. My component and my job is to go establish prayer altars in these schools. Now, what is a prayer altar? A prayer altar is something that we erected in the high school or grammar school to bring the presence of God into these schools, because without the presence of God, nothing is going to change. So I bring like the spiritual part of the component to this organization.
Well, that's good. Well, one of the things we want to focus on when we say Operation Takeover, we want the people that's listening to understand that this epidemic with our youth is really getting out of hand to the point where we're not really seeing any results from us having success in the numbers. For example, I've been doing prison ministry for 12 years now, and instead of the numbers of young men going to prison declining, they're actually escalating, Brother Chris. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about Rule Breakers, this collaboration between Christ and Nothing and Rule Breakers is really what we pose to be an antidote or a solution to the problem that our children are facing. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. One of the biggest issues with our children today is that they do not know who they are. And if you don't know who you are expending energy without a reason or without purpose. So one of the things with Rule Breakers is we try to give them direction. Mm-hmm. If you give someone direction, you giving them purpose and hope to go towards something. Without a direction, without an end point, you are just wandering off. So with Rule Breakers, our main goal is to give them a sense of direction in their lives. If you give them direction, you give them a reason and a so to speak, a place to go.
Well, let's talk about outcomes, Brother Chris. I know, and I want you to communicate to the listeners that you believe that God had called you to save and to be a voice for this generation. I know that you went to school to be an attorney. I know you was practicing law up until a year ago, and I still question, and I'm sure the listeners will question, what made you shift from getting that much money, shift from focusing on civil rights, being a lawyer, to going in a whole entirely different direction and focusing on some teenage kids?
Well, by the way, one of the things is that one of the things I was doing was my whole life I was trying to do things according to my will.
Okay.
And you're right. I had my own plan for myself. And when you have your own plan for yourself, you tend to make a lot of mistakes. And it causes a lot of frustration because you're trying to do things alone. Up until last year, I knew who God was, but I didn't fully believe in him. Mm-hmm. So last year when I stopped running and allowed him to take over my life, that's when my life started to gain a purpose. To be exact, I took the LSAT and wanted to go to law school, and the purpose of that is to become a civil rights attorney. And I thought I could make changes that way. But God came to me and said, no, I need you to go out there and lead these children a different way. I need you to reach them a different way. I need you to come on the ground floor and meet them face to face. And by being an attorney, I could have spoke with them, could have met with them, but that would have been towards the end where they were already in trouble, where I really couldn't make a positive influence or make any real change in their life. So he said, meet them before they even get to the point where they already in a system and you have to do, so to speak, surgery on them already. Get them before they even reach that point. So the point of Rule Breakers was, it was a collaboration I did with Vernon Baptist Church, where I was able to sit down with the kids in the church one day a week on Saturdays from 12 to 2, and we would just sit down and speak with the kids. And I was noticing that the kids would come in there, and one of the biggest things was they did not know who they was. They did not know what their place was in God's kingdom. So as God started to build upon this in me and let me get a clear picture of this, he says, let the children teach themselves. Let them reach each other because they understand what is needed. Us as adults, we always go in there and feel like we think we know what they need, but the kids know what they need. They just need guidance.
So you're saying, if I'm hearing you clear, you're saying the culture and the discombobulation and the misdirection of our culture for our children is concerned is because they don't know who they are.
Yes.
So from when I'm also hearing you say that if they know who Christ is, then at that point they can know who they are.
Yes.
Okay, and this is why I think this collaboration with Rule Breakers and Christ or Nothing Ministries is so important, because I believe that there has to be a practical component with a spiritual component.
Yes,
so
very true.
that puts the camera on Craig Holly. Craig, you go to Paul Robeson, you go to John Hope, you go to Percy Julian, you go to Finger, you go to Harper, you go to these high schools. What are you going? What is your purpose? What is your intent?
Well, when we go into the schools, as you know, Chicago has a real big gang problem. So going to the schools, I observe kids, the kids that you know you can look at a kid and you can, this a troublemaker kid over here. So I watch him for a minute, and then I go up and establish a conversation with him, and my whole job is to give him Christ, because the Bible says if any man be in Christ, he's a new creation. So once I give him Christ and he becomes a new creation, then we can work with him more. Then if that child becomes a new creation in Christ, then that kid's going home to his family, and once he comes to his family and his family see his change, and he can minister to his family household. And so in these schools, you have a lot of gang affiliation and gang problems in the school. So our job is to bring Christ into these schools and give them Christ.
And the thing that's phenomenal is that Craig stands a personal witness on how good and how effective programming is, because Craig used to work hand to hand with Bishop Jones out of Southside Worship Center on 77th and Racine, and he's seen the outcomes of engaging in the lives of the young children, in particular the young men, and redirecting their lives. So I think that Craig understands the method. Now, when we talk about Operation Takeover, we got to talk about vision, Brother Chris. When we talk about vision, we talk about it's apparent that it's going to take more than myself, you, and Brother Craig in order to reestablish our youth and redirect them at large.
Very true.
So when we talk about vision, there are people that's listening in, chimed in right now. They have the attention because we're talking about the juvenile detention center. So 50% of the women that's listening to this, they're affected because their son or their daughter may be in the juvenile detention center, or may be already in LYC, the young Cook County. You have the other 30-40% who are interested because they have sons who are still juveniles but are in the Cook County jail at the age of 16, at the age of 17, being tried as adults. So we have the attention of the people that's listening. We understand the African proverb that says it takes a whole community, it takes a village to raise a child.
Very true.
If it was something that you can tell to the people that's listening, how can they get involved with expanding Rule Breakers to make this program, this initiative more effective, and we can get more done with their help? What is it you can say?
Well, one of the biggest things that we need is manpower. And that's always been a problem, is that we have a huge problem, but we do not have enough manpower or resources to do this effectively. So if anybody at home really wants to get involved, they can contact myself, Craig, or Jeff Maxwell, and we can get you guys trained up on going into the schools with us, going in, mentoring, bringing in resources. One of the biggest things we run into when we get these kids is that they don't have the basic necessities possible. They don't have food, they don't have clothing, and they don't have even a place to stay. So one of the main things some of our callers or some of the viewers can do is they can call in, and if you want to donate money, clothes, or time is a big issue as well, because a lot of people don't understand is these kids need time. They need time and energy. They need to know that people care. And we need people who are going to come in, they're going to be consistent.
Okay.
We need consistency, because with anything in life is, if someone repeatedly sees you, you build in a relationship.
Okay.
And you build in a great foundation for that. So the biggest thing is when you come, be prepared to come consistently to engage these kids' life. There's no point of doing it if you're going to come every once in a while or you're just going to come one time. That is huge.
Okay.
Huge is consistency. We need people who's going to come and really come in and give their time and resources and energy.
Okay. Well, Brother Chris, I know this, and I want the viewers to hear you out on this. You not only came in with a burden for the children to redirect them, you also came in with an actual physical blueprint like Harriet Tubman had. She wasn't guessing when she got through the Underground Railroad. And so can you communicate to the listeners some of the things that's involved in your curriculum? Because from what I know, you not only hang out with these kids to love on them, I also know that you teach them how to interview for a job. You teach them as a rule breaker not to have their pants down. You teach them as a rule breaker to listen to different type of music. So talk to these people so the mothers out there can see if their son or daughter wants to be a part or to be a rule breaker in this actual army, because it's definitely an actual army. What type of things that they can look forward to if they hang around with the rule breakers?
Well, one of the main things we're going to do is first we're going to gain the child's trust, because the biggest thing that we learned is you have to build a relationship with them. If you don't have a relationship with anybody, you don't have that trust mechanism. If you don't trust me, you're not going to listen to me.
Right.
So one of our biggest components is we sit down and we get to understand who the children are individually, collectively, and let them understand that they are involved and connected to everybody else. Then one of the next things that we would teach them is we would teach them college-bound programs. We have career programs. We have mentorship programs with arts involved if the kids are not college bound. We will also teach them job placement. We will teach them how to interview when they go to a job. How do you speak? How do you dress? How do you address everyone that's in there? So those are a couple of little things that we teach at Rubric.
You know, with the time we have left, it's so important for people to understand that this new paradigm is really an old paradigm. And we understand that the kingdom is representative of the young men. And if that's the case, if the strength of the kingdom rests upon the shoulders of the young men, you just heard Brother Chris, you just heard Brother Craig communicate this. Then we're talking about a preventive mechanism. This gets my interest, and it really makes me excited to see men step up to the plate, because me doing prison ministry, that means that there's going to be less men coming through the tunnel in the funnel of prison ministry. So when we say prevention, there are investors out there, there are people out there that have money. God is saying, hold the money, because until the right time come, you're going to sow the money in the right place. And this is a phenomenal thing, because we spend so much money on post activity. Yes. Like Brother Craig just said, and like you just said, Chris, why wait till after they go to prison? Why wait till they go to the juvenile detention center? Let's do some preventive measures. And it seemed to me that this collaboration with Christ and Nothing Ministries and Rule Breakers is the antidote, the actual answer to what our city has a problem with. Now, I want to mention something about crime and mention something about gang involvement. One of the things with gangs is, even I'm a former gang member, is that we always wanted to belong to something. Yeah. And so now when you offer me Rule Breakers as something that's positive, where you're saying, my son is hanging with Chris in the Rule Breakers, and my daughter is a part of the Rule Breakers, and I don't have to worry about her listening to Lil Wayne and Drake while they're with them. And so they're giving them a different listening diet. So when I think about prevention, I think like, okay, one of the initiatives that was mentioned was Brother Craig and some guys that's a part of the Christ and Nothing team was saying they want to get vans, minivans, because they know we have 5 high schools that's representing 5 different gangs. So if we can put all of these gangs up in the one in the 5 vans and bring them in to one geographical location to have worship, then we're already breaking the gang boundaries. We're already breaking all of the gang scenarios, because now you have all these kids come to one place and now they all have no choice but to love on each other. So that's a great mechanism. But I want to mention this residential piece before we get off the air. Chris, you mentioned something about the wards of the state. You talked about the kids that have no mother, no fathers. We talk about a residential program. It may be people out there that want to donate houses, because you mentioned something to me before, and you talked about how it's in your plan to get recovery homes, or not recovery homes, but group homes, so that these kids can have a place, a safe haven, and we can do rule breakers there too.
Yes, that's one of the major things that was brought up as well. Like I say, when God gave me the vision, he told me at first just to mentor children. But as I steadily got out there and I started to engage these kids, one of the major problems I seen was homelessness. A lot of these children had no place to go after they left the program. A lot of these kids don't have no place to go when they leave school. And even if they do go somewhere, it's not a loving place, it's not an engaging place. So with the little time that we spend with them, we realized that we needed some place that we can truly engage them more than just 2 to 3 hours a day. So we came up with a piece called The Village, which is currently in works right now, that we're looking for investors to invest homes to us as well. That's a big thing that we need, is because we want to create group homes for these children to have a place to lay their heads, so they can have that family structure. Because one of the biggest things that we notice too is without that family impact, without that family, that real family love, a lot of times these kids cannot truly grow, because you come to me for 2 hours out the day, then the other 22 hours you're going back to the same destructive living that got you to where you at. So one of our biggest initiatives now is we want to have a place where we can love on these kids consistently.
Absolutely.
Because if we have consistent change, constant change in their lives, we can really, really see some huge changes in them.
So you basically saying, instead of having 11 in Hamilton, which is the detention center, you saying establish little homes, group homes throughout the city of Chicago, will be safe havens and be preventive measures where we can disciple them and get them all the love they need to catapult them to their future.
Very true. Very true.
So is it in the plan for these rule breaker kids to be college bound?
Yes, college bound. We want them to be entrepreneurs. We want them to be everything that society said that they cannot be.
Brother Craig, this is the last question. What do you see God hand being in this? You bring the spiritual component. How is this going to affect the city if we be successful in obtaining all of the high schools? You said something about establishing prayer altars. If I put a prayer altar in the high school, how is that going to modify the behavior of the kids that's in the high school? How is that going to bring solutions to the kids in the high school?
That's going to bring solutions, because the presence of God changes the atmosphere. See, we want the presence of God to come into the city. We want the presence of God to come into these high schools, because when his presence come, the glory come, then change come. Without the presence of God, there's no change. And so that's a real important part of bringing the prayer altars into these schools, and bringing the presence of God so thick and the glory of God so thick into these schools that people will see a change.
Wow. And you know, that brings us to the last point. There's a project called the California School Project. And this project was derived because they had found out that there was a legal representation, legal documentation that suggested that it was legal, totally legal, for there to be what we call a Christian club inside of the high schools. And what has happened from that, last year we went into Paul Robeson under this particular initiative, and we have had so much success where we get a staff member to be engaged and a student to be engaged, and we start a Christian club from that platform, and that has spread. So if you're a principal, assistant principal, if you're a staff person, if you're just a parent that's concerned, you can talk to your principal and we can get the legal ramifications. You see all 3 of our phone numbers out here tonight, and you can give us a call.
Keep talking,
fellas. So Chris, I want you to put a bow tie on pleading out to the other organizations, because one thing I learned is that together we can stand. And this is not a rule breakers issue. This is not a Christ or nothing issue. This is a culture issue.
Yes.
Our young men are suffering, and because of that, it's throwing off the ecosystem. Now our young women are going to other young women. And so, Chris, can you put a bow tie on how we pleading with the people to participate, from the organizations to the people that's out there that's listening?
Yes, like I was saying before, this thing that we are embarking on is going to take everybody. It's not just our problem, and it's not the problem of the past. It's the problem of the present. So that's why Rule Breakers' vision is that our children today that are involved in Rule Breakers will go out and reach out and bring the other children in as well. It's because once you see that the youth are changing, because that is the life of the community. At any point, the children is the future. So if you see the change in them, they can spark the change in future generations. And also, sometimes a child can lead the past. So if you have so many kids in this neighborhood, they can embark and go back and go grab the older people who were swayed away from their right path as well. So that's why we believe that the children is the future, the children is the way to go. So that's why all our time, energy, and resources going to the children. So any organizations that's out there that's in Inglewood, the South Side, North Side, anywhere in Chicago, if you want to get in on this collaboration, you can contact any of our numbers on there, and we can sit down and talk about how can we use each other to come in and to fix this problem, because this problem is everybody's problem. And if anyone thinks that it does not affect them, that is the issue, because this problem affects everybody. And it's going to keep growing until we put a stop to it, because Rule Breakers, Christ or Nothing, cannot do it alone.
That's good. One of the things that's so interesting is that I know Craig personally, and I know that his son was in Philadelphia just a few weeks ago. And in having conversation with Craig, going to the high schools, he began to have a stronger burden for his own household. And so he communicated that he was willing to give up his whole check to make sure that his son gets from Philadelphia to Chicago. And what he did with his first check was make sure that his son had an actual home to dwell in. And I'm saying this to say that what I see and what I'm hearing from everybody is absentee father is what has put us in this particular destruction. We know the scripture said that in the book of Malachi that God will turn the hearts of the fathers to the children and have the hearts of the children back to the father. And so I'm really seeing that from Brother Craig and from Chris, who also is a father, myself being a father, that there are practical mechanisms that we already operate in our day-to-day working with our own children, willing to implement this same component. Because we understand without fatherhood, there cannot be no identity. See, a father is one who names the son. The father names the son because he's naming the destiny of his son. So if Craig, as an apostolic father, is not inside of the schools, because when he said in the word, he would turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, he wasn't talking naturally. Because naturally speaking, in our culture, the fathers are even in prison. We don't know. They off the radar for the most part. 60-something% of our fathers in our low socioeconomic communities, they're not even present. So that means that the Bible said when your mother and your father will forsake you, I'll step up. So that means now Craig has to step up. Not only resume the responsibilities with little Craig, not only resume the responsibilities with little Chris, but also with this whole different culture of people that God had put a burden on your heart to say, and this goes out to you apostolic fathers, you church people, you people that sit there and say, you know what, it's something I can do, get engaged in not the future, but the now of these kids, because there's an initiative, Operation Takeover, because the Bible said in Numbers chapter 14, God had told Moses, he said that I'm going to take them 20 and under into the promised land. So if you think this investment is a poor investment, then that makes God a lie. These are the people we're going after, because these are the people that's going to bring the kingdom back into fruition. I'm Jeff Maxwell from Christ and Other Ministries, and we'll talk to you guys later.
correct. Hello, and thank you for joining us at the Multicultural Community Project. I'm your host, Yvonne Spear, and I'm also the president of the Multicultural Community Project. Joining me today is our vice president, Pastor Carmelita Green. Hi, Carmelita.
Hi, how are you?
We have several different programs, and the mission statement of the Multicultural Community Project is to help business owners develop best business practices in their business, and we achieve this by doing networking events, classes, workshops, and conferences. One of the things that I've invited Carmelita here today to talk about some of the events that we've done. Carmelita?
Well, we've done many events and we've had a great time doing the events. Jazzing in July, how to monetize your intellectual business while capitalizing, making sure that you get capital. So we've done quite a few events and they've been pretty successful.
What is one of the main things that you like about being a part of the Multicultural Community Project?
It networks and bring people together, each one reaching one for a common goal, and that's helping the community, broaden the community, helping to broaden the community and helping the community, the business owners come together, especially small businesses that would normally not know how to expand. And we're showing them how to network with others to get the things that they need done for their small businesses.
One of the things that I've always liked the most about the Multicultural Community Project, while we're networking, we expand our broader base, but we also help eliminate those misconceptions about racial, ethnic barriers and religious barriers to get together to do business and exchange business information so that we become better at our day-to-day businesses ourselves.
Absolutely.
One of the things we also have been able to do in our experience as business owners that defines us is that we use our business expertise and we come together and we also do events that support the community. Absolutely. Such as we did our back to school event.
Yes.
How many children did we give book bags to that day?
About 500 children.
Yes.
500 children in the community, and we fed them as well. So that was really great for the community. Mm-hmm.
And it also gave a chance for local business owners to get out into the community and actually meet people.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that I like about that, it's great to be that store on the corner, but if nobody knows you're there.
Right.
And you're so busy as a business owner conducting business, you're not contacting and not in contact with your client base. So in these days of social media, that everybody connects through social media, but social media does not lend to real relationships with the people that are right next door in your community, as well as local business owners. I actually met Carmelita through a collaboration that we did a back to school event through a mutual friend of ours and business partner, which is Bob Israel from Save Our Communities Coalition. We